Hello everybody and welcome back to One Hub Racing. We are here for another episode of Inside the Stewards Room, and when I say we, of course, joined alongside me in this episode is Colin. Welcome back, Cole.
Evening, Nick. Evening all. Obviously we didn't do last week's one because I think there was only one to go through, I think. So, but this week we do have, we had quite a few incidents, which you kind of expect around a circuit like Singapore with the wall so close. So yeah, we got a few incidents that we can show you today.
Yeah, I think probably the two races so far this season that have provided the most kind of stewarding incidents would be Baku and Singapore. Cole, the theme seems to be it's harder to overtake around a street circuit.
Yeah, exactly that. And then, of course, there's more likelihood of contact. But in all fairness to all the drivers, I think Baku, there wasn't many incidents at all. One of the things that I've actually started having to look at is how many incidents we've gone through in the past few seasons. And so far, the trend is that this season is the lowest number of incidents at this stage for 6 seasons.
Yeah,
So,
I think
which is good.
on average, Cole, it's definitely a lot lower, than we've seen in the past, which obviously shows that, there's a lot of respect going out there on track.
Yeah, exactly that, and I think because we do have clear, defined rules of engagement, if you like, then it's easier for the drivers to understand what is and what isn't allowed. Unlike real Formula One, in my opinion, which is about as clear as mud.
Yeah, of course, these rules, Cole, we've worked on for seasons, tweaking sometimes single words in a rule just to try and make it more clear and there'd be less scope for, A, B, C, D, and it more just, that is what it is. That's the line. It's either across the line or it's not. So, as you said, real Formula One's got some work to do, but we're ahead of the game here in One Hub.
Yeah, definitely. And, all right, there might be some, some drivers might disagree with some of our decisions, but I like to think that we are as consistent as we can possibly be. Because especially with the parameters that we use as well.
Alrighty, well, let's jump into some incidents. And obviously we've got Jess in our ear who'll be bringing up everything we need on stream. Now, the first one, Cole, is one of the strangest incidents that we've seen in One Hub, because each driver's POV, and unfortunately we've only got Joe's POV to show you, but each driver's POV was a completely different what actually happened. So on Joe's POV, Hockey Knight cuts the pit lane entry in Singapore, whereas on Hockey Knight's POV, it's clear as day he does not do that. So there's obviously some desync involved here, but not to this extreme I've never seen.
Well, this blew my tiny mind, I got to be honest, because you can see there from Joe if you watch it now, look, it's blatantly clear that he cuts the curbs, and you're like, yeah. And we were going, well, that's a slam dunk, but we'll ask for his footage. And then he showed his footage, and his car's not even near there. He doesn't even cut the white line, and never mind the curb. So that was the strangest bit of desync that I've ever seen, I got to be honest. I was talking to my dad about this incident, actually, and he said the same thing regarding Canada, because he put a report in, thought that Matthias was a bit unfair with him, and when he saw Matthias's view, he's like, there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that was a bit of desync as well. But yeah, that's the strangest one I've ever seen. But Nick, what's this prove? Always record your footage, because if Hockey Night did not have any footage at all, he would have got a 5-second penalty there for cutting the pit lane entrance, and he would have said, well, I never did it. Yeah. Which obviously he didn't do. So, you know, always record your footage. You know, I mean, obviously it depends on your internet, but one of the things that I do, I record on YouTube. Before I shut down the PC, the PS, sorry, I also save the previous, I think it's maximum of an hour, I think. And I save that just in case the stream didn't work. So then you've got the backup then. So you should, you know, you've got half a chance of making sure that you've got footage for little things like that.
Alrighty, well, let's move on to the next one, Cole, which is one of these incidents, and we're going to be able to show you both POVs for this one, between Larkin and Kinney. And Cole, it's one of these incidents where the driver who reported the other driver, actually ended up being the one with the penalty. And in this situation, because of the damage, when we went to the parameters afterwards, it was a harsh penalty.
Yes, because obviously the parameters say that because there was red wing damage, then that means it comes under that 20-second penalty. But when you watch it, you can see that Larkin is clearly on the inside, which is fine. But he takes too much curb, and it bounces him into Kinney, and then they both go in the wall. And I was really conscious of that curb because I had it when I was practicing, and I thought, well, I've got to avoid this, and I've got to be careful. And there you could see it from, from Kinney's view. It's really clear that Larkin's car bounces to the right and takes them both in the barrier.
Yeah, obviously traveling at high speed into that left-hander. You can see the bottom of Larkin. I mean, the move's done, and Kinney kind of just... To me, it didn't even look like Kinney was going to try and fight it on the outside. He just happened to brake later and then was kind of waiting for Larkin to complete his turn-in. But as you say, Larkin actually brought this incident to the steward's office, but ended up being the one, and you can see there the curb just bouncing him off to the right, being the one that... got the 20-second penalty. And Colt, we often get drivers say, well, hold on a second, that's not fair. Larkin already got red wing damage. Why is he getting a 20-second? That seems harsh.
Yes, we always go by the damage of the other driver, and it keeps it consistent. Because you don't want a situation where somebody gives somebody red damage and they get 5 seconds, and somebody else gives a different driver red damage and they only get 10. So whatever happened to Larkin in that situation is removed from the equation, and we only look at the effective drive. So whoever's at fault, we then look at what's happened to the other driver, and that's where we keep our consistency. Now, if Larkin had DNF'd, he would have then been given a grid penalty for this race round Qatar. And
I think the other thing as well, Cole, is that ultimately when a driver, if it's an incident between two drivers, when one driver has been found predominantly at fault, ultimately if they've damaged their own car, then, they have to take responsibility for that and the fact that they've damaged another driver's car.
Exactly that. And it's one of these situations where we get it a lot, where drivers report other drivers. Actually, it's the guy who's reporting is the driver at fault. This happened with Fury Formula in Monza. He reported the other drivers, yes, Jamie did get a penalty, but Fury Formula had a far harsher penalty for his actions under the safety car. So, yeah, it is interesting that we do get that sometimes.
Alrighty, well, let's move over to the P1 tier, where we're going to look at an incident that was reported between Luki and Senna quite late on in the race, and just is going to bring it up now. Colt, these are one of those moves. So Luki gets slight damage from that. Now I'm just going to read out to everyone. So this is rule number 13 under racing rules. Dive bombs are allowed, but must be done in a controlled manner. Participants who dive bomb and can't control their car will be penalized for reckless driving. Now, soon you'll get the POV of Senna, and you'll see that at no point does he lose control of his car. Yes, it was a dive bomb and a late move, and you're about to see it now, Cole. But ultimately, he positions his car where the driver on the outside has to react in a sense that had Luki just slightly lifted off earlier, Cole, and done the switchback, he probably would have been fighting harder to keep this position and without gaining the damage.
Yeah, exactly that. This was just, hard racing, fair racing, but hard racing. You can see Senna is always in control of his car. He's not, he hasn't locked his inside front. He hasn't just understeered straight on into Luki. So this one was deemed a racing incident and no further action.
Yeah, of course, slightly unlucky, that Luke did get damage from it.
Yeah.
But you can see here, I don't know if Jess can pause it at any point about there, but you can see that, Senna brakes so much later that he actually gets his car more than 50% alongside at the point of turning, which is, of course, now. And you can see that's when he appears. So yeah, good but hard racing, and Luki slightly unlucky. So Luki's just turning in, and look, Senna appears, so it's difficult for Luki by all means, Cole. But
yes,
you've got to be, I guess, ready for those situations. And Senna doesn't go off track either on the left hand side, the second part of the chicane. So always kept it within the white lines, and the stewards put it down as a racing incident.
Yeah, exactly that. Little, was a bit unlucky on Luki's part. Hindsight's a brilliant thing, and it's easy in hindsight. But Luki will probably look back and go, I just wish I lifted a bit when I saw him come in, and then have a bit more time to possibly get a run on the exit. But like I said, hindsight, that's easy, innit?
It definitely is. So let's move on to the next one, the final one we're going to look at, which is Joe and Vitinho. And of course, we've got our biggest fan, Mikey, in the chat. So welcome along, Mikey. Thanks for joining us. So Joe and Vitinho, and this was a really difficult one, Cole. Slightly different from each driver's POV. Now, when you look at Lawrence, you think, that wasn't a very fair move. That was, he made contact there, put Lawrence slightly off. Joe slightly off, not Lawrence. And when you look at Vitinho's point of view, Colin, it doesn't really look like he does anything wrong, and he gets his car 50% alongside at the point of turning.
Yeah, exactly that. So when you on board Joe, you could see the red markers. Joe still turns in, not quite at the normal line, but almost. And also, if you look, Joe is bouncing around a little bit. You can see it there. Let's see. So it kind of, and you can see at the point there, Vitinho
before, but
he's more than a lot alongside to warrant space there.
Yeah.
So that one was just, there was no harm done there. Vitinho had completed the move, so that was another racing incident we deemed, and no further action.
And I think if you are going to make contact with another car, and you can see Joe slightly bounces to the left, almost as if the contact was more on his POV than it actually was on Vitinho's. So, and you'll see it again here now. And ultimately, if you are going to make contact with another car, Cole, it's wheel to wheel. And you can see bounces slightly, way more to the left than kind of what should have been from what we've just watched on Vitinho's view.
Yes, I think that was another example of a little bit of desync as well and a bit of lag, and you can see that from Vitinho's view as well, where Joe's car is not really smooth and it's bouncing a bit. So yeah, that was another racing incident. No further action.
Alrighty, so we're going to jump on to some good examples of overtaking defending, and we're going to start with the P1 tier, and I believe we're going to jump on board with Alex and Casper, who went side by side for quite a way at the start of the race. Sorry, just seen, I don't know if you can pause that just for a sec. Just got a question from Papa. It's a bit confused. Don't you have to be 100% alongside at turn-in when on the outside when overtaking? Didn't seem like Kinney was eligible to space Larkin. So the stewards, so we're jumping back to the Kinney and Larkin incident.
Larkin one, yeah.
Ultimately, the stewards, I think Jess is going to bring it back up for us, Cole. But good question, Papa. So the stewards, I don't think felt, Cole, that Kinney was really trying to overtake on the outside. Kinney had kind of accepted the position was lost. Larkin breaks early, and then Larkin just kind of bounces into him, almost as if to stop Kinney taking any sort of speed into the corner on the outside. So on board here with Kinney, Cole.
Yeah, so here, Kinney can do two options. He can attempt to go around the outside, or he can compromise Larkin's line into the corner, like he's done here, and then possibly go for a scissor. But it was the fact that Larkin bounced and hit Kinney. So it's not as if, you know, he didn't just slightly drift towards it. See, that sudden change doesn't give Kinney any chance of avoiding that situation there, and doesn't give him a chance to avoid Larkin, unfortunately, due to that severe bounce on the curb.
Yeah, so had Larkin not bounced on the curb, and just if Kinney decided to hang it around the outside, Larkin would have been entitled to run right to the edge of the curb and push Kinney out onto, and Jess has got the graphic on the screen, so Larkin could have pushed Kinney out right on the outside of the curb, kind of run him out of road, in a sense, the term that we've used before. But because Larkin made that mistake by using too much curb, it sent his car uncontrollably into Kinney, which forced them both into the barrier. So ultimately, that mistake from Larkin caused an incident which ultimately damaged another driver's car. But good question.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, hope that clears that up, mate.
Okay, so some good examples. Now this one between Alex and Casper, I don't know if you've had time to watch it, Cole, but this to me is the pinnacle of what league racing should be, and showing each other respect on track whilst pushing to the limits. So I'm not sure if we're going to see both views, Jess, or if we've just got Casper's view. Just Alex's. Okay, so you can see Alex's here. So Casper's on the outside there now. Cole just gets ahead.
Yeah, look at this. This is the first time I'm watching this, actually. So it's interesting. Look, you can see that they've kept a car's width.
On the inside and the outside. On
the inside and outside. We're now heading to this corner now where Larkin is. You can see that he leaves another width for Casper. This is brilliant racing, actually. And then again. This really reminds me of Casper and I in season 18 around here. Oh, look at that. And Casper does a brilliant switchback then as well. That's really good racing. Oh, see, and that's the... Oh, look at that. That's quite impressive, the switchback. Two switchbacks there. That's really good awareness from both drivers there. That's really good racing. That's exactly what we want to see. What
I really liked about the incident where Alex got passed by, I think it was Senna, and then got back past, it was the awareness that at that corner, it's not really a corner you want to go side by side in, just before the bridge section, called the left-hander there. So he's lifted off early, let the driver on the inside, Senna, go shooting along. And you're going to see it there after that moment. So Senna's going to come along shooting on the inside now. Goes deep. He gets the power early and gets the switchback done. And that, to me, is, a driver who's got experience and, knows every single corner at this track or many tracks where if a driver's going to go for a move on the inside, you know what to do. If a driver's going to go for a move on the outside, you know what to do. So yeah, that really impressed me when I watched that.
Yeah, that was brilliant racing. Fair play. That was really, really good.
There were times there where perhaps Alex could have, you know, we talk about that corner with Larkin and Kinney. Alex could have ran Casper out a road there because Casper wasn't 100% along the outside on point of turn-in, but he chose to give him room, you know, and that battle continued on for the next few corners, which is so nice to see, not just from a driving point of view, but also for our commentators and our viewers and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, exactly that. And, you know, you've got to play the percentages a bit. Yes, he could have, you know, run him out of road. They could have been contact. They both could have been in the wall. You know, it may have gone to the stewards and gone, yeah, that's a penalty, but that's not going to help the guy who's just lost his front wing. So, you know, it's always, yeah, like Alex says, it's lap one. If there's a red arrow, you leave space. It really is that simple, Alex, because, you know, especially lap one, where it's usually a bit chaotic as everyone's trying to find their space in the race. But that was brilliant driving. I got to be honest, I really like that.
Because a lot of the time, Cole, you know, league racers, you know, they don't necessarily know each other or know each other as drivers, you know, and so what potentially is going to happen is if Alex runs Casper out a road there, you know, Casper's more likely to then sling it up the inside on the next corner, or there'd be contact further on in the race because he remembers he was pushed out wide. So it's about respect as well, you know, and if you can create respect with your fellow drivers in your tier, then, you know, the hope is that respect will, you know, be returned.
Yeah, exactly that, you know, and drivers, especially myself, Rach says to me, I got a memory like an elephant. I could, you know, I tend to remember things that have happened. And, you know, if you have a really, really good battle with someone, I mean, for me, lately, it's been with Chris. And then you get that element of trust then, and you go, right, if I go down here, he's probably going to leave me a bit of space, which he does. Lovely, lovely. And then you get better battles, more fun racing, no damage, no incidents, and it's just more fun in general, you know, because that's the whole, you know, don't get me wrong, we're all competitive and we want to win. But our main target is to enjoy ourselves, and if we're in incidents all the time, we're not really going to enjoy ourselves.
100%. All right, let's move on to the next one that Jess is going to bring up, and it's Catherine and Moki from the P2 tier, and I think it's at 5 minutes on Catherine's point of view, Jess. That was what I pinpointed that I quite liked. So we are going to see... So is this on Catherine's point of view? Yes. So you can see on Catherine's point of view. So Moki's just lost a position there, I think, to Larkin. And he's lost another position to Richelieu. So he's already lost a couple positions. And look at this. Round the outside gives Catherine all the room. And this corner coming up, Cole, as I mentioned earlier, it's not a corner you want to go side by side through. But do you see Catherine left Moki, I don't know if Jess can rewind it, but she left Moki room on the inside there in case he decided to keep his car on the inside. And again, it's just that, you know, we're being a bit repetitive, but if you can, show that respect to each other, then it goes a long way.
And it's simple physics. If you're going to go, you know, in the inside, the driver on the outside has to expect him to drift a little bit, or her, a little bit to the right. And that's why Catherine there left that little bit of space to allow Mokri to go round the corner and, you know, drift a little bit if he needed to. And it means then that there's not going to be any contact. And fair play to Mokri, he does back out of it as well. Yeah,
and I think according to the rules, he was 50% alongside at the point of turn. I think you're going to see a beautiful helicopter. So yeah, you can see Catherine gives in the room, carries a bit more momentum, and the next corner's a right-hander, so she's, you know, got her car in the correct position. So great racing by Catherine and Moki. And then finally, Cole, we're going to jump over to my POV. which again was a battle with Casper. And Casper messaged me afterwards, after this race. He goes, another race, another great battle between me and you, always hard, but always fair. So I let Casper go on the inside. And already, Colin, when we entered that pit straight, already I'm thinking that he's close enough. He's probably going to get down the inside here. But I'm already planning that I want to get back past him down this next straight.
Yeah, that's it. You know, it's pre-planning. I always say the same thing. Overtaking a driver is like chess. You think 5 moves ahead. You don't think 1 corner ahead. You're way ahead. And you can see that at the start of the clip, Casper has a good run. You see him come in and go, well, that's fine. I'm going to make sure now that I got a good run on him for the second DRS, which you then complete the move. So, you know, it's all about that pre-thought and thinking ahead. That's the trick, you know, to a good overtake. Yeah, you know, you can do the late dive bomb and, you know, a sudden decision. But from my point of view, I'm always more impressed with the ones that are thought through a couple of corners before.
Yeah, and, you know, and my thinking is, Cole, that, look, it's lap 8 of 31. Yeah, why? I don't need to...
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Do or die, these kind of fight him so hard, Casper so hard, where, you know, potentially one of us could end up with damage. There's 0 point to gain, you know, and the run I get here is because obviously I got DRS, he goes down to none, down the inside. I didn't have to leave him room because ultimately he'd fallen far enough back. I had the corner, you know, and as I took the inside, I didn't get stuck on the curb, obviously.
On the curb, yeah.
Like Larkin did, because now you can see another one on Lukey. But yeah, great racing. It's been great racing in the P1 tier this season, Cole. It's always been really clean and really fair. But yeah, well, that is some good overtakes and thoroughly enjoyable races. And Cole, let's talk about Qatar, because it's a really demanding track, but it's also a track that you know, plenty of opportunity to overtake. We've seen some entertaining races here on F124. What are we expecting?
Well, this track is so fast. It's very flowing. It's another one of those tracks where, I say this every week, you guys must be bored to tears of me repeating myself. If this track had grass and gravel instead of concrete, it would be incredible circuit. And it would be, you know, an absolute worldie. But it's still a lot of fun. And of course, we've got a lot of track limits to be careful of. This track, if you're not careful, you're going to end up with so many penalties. So just a tip to the drivers, you know, limit the amount of penalties, work out which corners that you're likely to get penalties at. Go in there maybe 95%, because if there's a late safety car, you're going to jump a ton of positions.
Yeah, and it's nice to have a track as well that the soft tyres are usable in the race. So they're a good tyre to use in the race, as are the mediums and the hards. To be honest, they're all good tyres to use. So that always makes strategy interesting. Also, obviously, you've got the pit entrance, Cole. As you're coming in, it's changed from the early get where this is first added to the game. So it's after the final corner now. A bit like Bahrain, the pit entry. So just be mindful. You know, 10 seconds you could lose if you try and gain that extra half a second. So you've got to weigh up that decision, that gamble as you're heading into the pit lane. But other than that, Cole, as you said, the main thing is going to be keeping the penalties down. And I think it's also going to be mindful that expect some drivers' rear tires to overheat. You know, overheating here is a bit of an issue. So just be mindful of that when you're behind a car closely. Could be sliding on the rears a little bit, particularly towards the end of the stint. But we're hoping for a great race in all tiers.
Yes, I think this one's going to be quite an important track for qualifying. Even though it is quite good for overtaking, there is that risk of obviously getting in a bit of a DRS train. So practice your qualifying, try and get the best lap you possibly can. There's our previous winners, look. A certain Nick there in P1 last season, and Proverb winning the P2 race for Williams. Let's hope Proverb has another good race here. And of course, Jess won the sprint race as well.
Yeah, I love it. I to be honest, I really enjoy high downforce tracks that are fast and flowing. You can just throw the car into, and these Formula One cars, Cole, they just stick when you got the downforce on. So, it feels great. And it was, I was ecstatic last season, wasn't I, when I got the win in the P1 tier. So, that was good memories.
And I spilt my cider when you crossed the line. Jumping up off the sofa. But there we go.
Not the first time you spilt your cider, though, is it, Cole?
That's true. Yeah, that's very true.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for watching. Thanks, Jess, for being in our ears and showing us all the footage that you've seen on the stream. We hope everyone's enjoying these Stewards rooms this season. Obviously, new for this season, so we hope that the drivers and people watching have enjoyed them and found them informative. I know that MyG is enjoying them more than anyone, and I think that he might get Christmas cards from the Stewards if he carries on as is.
Oh yes, without a doubt. And I get a pack of cider.
Well, thanks everyone for watching. Big thanks to our sponsors SimGrid, Vespertine, Next Level Racing, Sim Racing Setups, and Pure Sim Gear. We couldn't offer what we do at One Hub Racing without all their support. So big thanks to them, and looking forward to a great race on Sunday.
Yes, and so our next will be Sunday at 12 o'clock for the pre-race show. And that will, of course, that's where we will release the weather as well. So don't forget, it could well do. Don't forget, there is a practice session starting very, very soon. Please react to the message in the social chat, and we can get you in the lobby.
Thanks, everyone, and good night.
Good night, all.